One of the countries that's so close and yet so far from Israel is Egypt. It's like we border with Egypt, and yet nobody knows any Egyptians. Nobody has any Egyptian friends. I have many Arab, so-called Palestinian friends. I know many of them. I know Jordanians. I know some Lebanese folks. I don't know anybody on the Egyptian side. And it's like there's like an iron wall between the two. Explain to me, please, a little bit, the Egyptian psychology at this moment.
This iron wall does actually exist. It exists, and it was created and maintained by the Egyptian military. You have to bear in mind that Egypt, essentially, when Nasser took over in 1952, he established this military state. And the military takes its legitimacy. It comes from mostly the war with Israel, the conflict with Israel, anti-Semitism. They create this sense of a hidden enemy, that despite the peace with Israel, Israel is always plotting against us. Jews are always plotting against us. So this is the psychology, it comes from really deeply rooted anti-Semitism and hatred, and that has shaped the Egyptian national identity. So that's why you're not going to find, many peace activists who are from Egypt or who actually live in Egypt. It's very, very rare. And that also creates a lot of problems. But mostly you have to look at the army, and even in the latest ceasefire deal that the Egyptians proposed, they said we didn't even discuss Hamas, this army. So it's very difficult to understand Egypt because it has so many different contradictions. So on one side, yes, they signed the peace treaty, but then a couple of weeks ago, one of the most prominent commentators, a man who worked for President Mubarak, a man who worked with President Sadat, very closely, and he was actually almost the chief of staff for President Mubarak for many years. And he said, we were the first to make peace, but we will be the last to normalize. And that tells you everything. Mm-hmm. And it really is very difficult for Israelis to understand this. I think, they find this really difficult to understand, but in many ways, this status quo is very beneficial for Egypt. They want Israel to always be an enemy, but they don't really want to go to war, but that has been changing after October 7th.